Well, welcome everyone to a long overdue edition of Computer Compulsive. My name is Craig and we are in the basement taking a look at some interesting things. My apologies for not being around. It was a very busy December for me with my gigs, and I just wanted to get my streaming stuff set up. I'm working on a system where I can easily switch camera angles and have better audio. So I hope you're going to enjoy what I have to show you today. We have, first thing I want to show you is, and pardon me while I reach across to change the angle here. I wanted to share this. This is my father's certificate of completion of apprenticeship. And what this says is, it's dated March 20th, 1967. And you'll notice the red seal here. The red seal is very important because what that means is, that means that my dad was able to work as a radio technician in any province in Canada with excellence. And while he's no longer with us, this is something that I wanted to keep because it showed his dedication to excellence. He's a very technical brain. He's very good at troubleshooting and fixing things. And that's kind of just, I wanted to just give a little tribute out to him. He used to fix TVs and VCRs and Laserdisc players, and he just sold and fixed everything. So I just wanted to give a tribute to my dad for all the technical stuff that he taught me when I was growing up, including getting an Apple computer for me in 1980. We got an Apple II Plus, and in a recent collection, we actually got an Apple II Plus with the original box and the matching serial number with the matching box of accessories, and we'll take a look at that later. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. This is my father's certificate of completion of apprenticeship as a radio technician in Canada, and the red seal gave him the authority to do repairs in any province. So we'll set that aside, and I just wanted to give a little tribute to my dad there. It has been a while since we've been here, and so I thought it'd be fun if we did a little unboxing. There's a bunch of stuff I got in the last year, and I've been saving it to take a look at it. We are working on an SE30 project, and my friend Keith, my partner in crime at Computer Compulsive, he is in Crossfield, and he has been working diligently in repopulating SE30 boards with balls, B-O-L-L-E, from Tinker Different and the 68K MLA. He designed a reloaded board in which you can take your components from an existing SE30 board and transplant them into another board. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up some unboxing. So this, I don't remember what this is because these came so long ago, and I just wanted to unbox these for you during the stream. So this came from Australia. And honestly, I can't remember what it is. So I'm just going to open it up and we're going to take a look together. Hope you're having a good New Year. Hope your holidays went well. Mine certainly did. It's one of my favorite vacation holiday times that I've ever had. Got to see lots of family and had lots of gigs, my piano business. And yes, it was quite busy, but not so busy that I didn't want to anyways, we're going to open this up here and see what's inside. So this is obviously packed quite well. We got a lot of padding here, which is good. I think I know what this might be. A very interesting bag. Just going to flip over to the different camera angles so you can see exactly what I'm doing. All right, put that away. Oh, this is I know what this is. Just from feeling it, you can tell it is a, you'll love this. This is a very funky Y cable, and the purpose of this cable is when you have the DOS compatibility card, check out all the pins on that thing. Sorry, I'm just getting the feel for where my camera's at. There's a bunch of pins on this cable, and this connects to a monitor as well as a joystick for when you're running the PC emulation card on certain PCI Macs. You can install the card. So very interesting there. So we've got a DOS cable with all the funky pins and connectors for monitors and joysticks. So my goal was to, I really like the game Commander Keen. It only runs under DOS or early versions of Windows, I think. So I was hoping to play it on my Mac, but in order to do that, you need to put a PC card in, and it's very interesting. So that's one thing unboxed. We'll put that down. We've got another 3 boxes to take a look at, or 2, I don't remember. It has honestly been forever since I did. So let's have a look at this. We have another box we're going to open up. It's unboxing time. It's like a bonus Christmas here at Computer Compulsive. The only problem with the DOS card is that I'm not sure which machine I want to install it in. So that could be tricky. Be careful with the utility knife that you don't slice your fingers open. And this is a 2025 sort of preview. We're going to be talking about, oh, that is really on there. Different projects we're going to be working on, and wanted to start with just an unboxing. Hey, look everybody, it's styrofoam peanuts. Anybody got any butter and salt? These are fun for doing the old. We have a box inside of a box, people. I love it when people pack things like this. Look at that. And more tape even, so that's exciting. I'm gonna guess this is, it's either an accelerator or it's the DOS card. One of the two. Let's have a look and see what's going on in here. Oh, this is the Carrera card. All right. So, what's a Carrera card, you might ask? I'm glad you asked. This is the floppy that has the drivers. So, a Carrera card is a highly sought after accelerator card for the SE30 and other Macs. So, you can see here, we're gonna just pop this open. And looks like it came with 2 fans. We got 1 fan, and we have another one that's already connected to the actual card. So we're just going to pop this open. I want to be careful with this because there's a very important processor on this card, and this is the only card that you can run with the grayscale setup that I actually have. All right, there you have it, folks. That is the Carrera card. And you can see it has, someone put a Noctua fan on here so that the fan is a little quieter, which is nice. The only thing that was disappointing about this card is that it does not come with the cache. There's a little cache card extension here. Apparently it makes the computer a little bit faster, but anyway, you get the idea. That's the Micro Mac Technology Carrera 040, and there's an 040 on here. It looks like it's a full 040 based on the jumpers here. There's a 040, LC040, or EC040, so that's kind of cool. So this has a heatsink as well as a fan. So I do not think this will be overheating anytime soon. So there you go, folks. That is the Micromac Carrera 040. These do not come up very often. And when this one did, I'm like, I'm taking that, thanks. So this will be part of our Ultimate SE30 project. One of our previous videos, I think I showed you a bunch of different cards we're going to be playing with. And I have the Bole riser card that this is going to go into, Plus I also have the socketed 50 megahertz 030. So we're going to have 2 accelerators in the same SE30, which some other folks have done. And the nice thing about this is you'll see that the fan has a standard Molex plug for power. So that's easy to connect. You just get a Y connector off the analog board on the SE30, and then this fan will keep this 040 nice and cool. So I'm very excited about this 040 because I've never had an 040 in my SE30. This will be the first time, and I have enough of the stuff you need to actually make that happen. So I can't remember who I bought this from. It was an eBay auction, I believe. It's dated 1995, made in USA, which is interesting. And yeah, I don't know, maybe someday I'll be able to find the cash card that goes on the end here. Not sure, but it's not really critical. Might be like a math coprocessor that only makes certain programs go faster. So that is our Carrera 040, which is going to be part of our ultimate SE30 project, which I'm very excited about. So we're going to put that back. Maybe put it back in our static bag just for good measure. Do not want to do anything bad to that card. It was quite costly, so I want to take very good care of that. All right, so we have the disc with the drivers on it, and we've got an extra fan, so that is wonderful. I'm going to put that away, and then we will get back to one more unboxing, which, if I recall correctly, is going to be the other fun thing that I got. Let's take a look at this. Go to our other unboxing angle here. So again, we got lots of tape. Where did this come from? Glendale Heights, Illinois is where this came from. So, and what's hilarious is if this is what I think it is, which is great, on the big haul we just got, me and Keith, we're doing a video on that shortly here too. We actually got one of those cables and one of these cards in our haul as well. So I actually didn't even need to buy this. So I have 2 of them. So if anybody's interested in a PC compatibility card, I do have 2, which is interesting. So let's take a look at this. We've got a lot of bubble wrap, which is great. And we've got an anti-static bag, which is also great. Holy cow, there's a massive heatsink on this thing. My only concerns with this card is that I think we might be missing, there's some small cables I think that have to do with audio pass-through, because you want the PC audio and the Mac audio to be going through the same channels. You don't want to have 2 different speakers for the audio, obviously. This card is huge. It is very large in size, and check that out, folks. It has, it's got a big fat stick of RAM on it already. This is interesting. There's 2 slots here, video DRAM. 256 by 16 nanoseconds. So these are not populated. So I'm guessing you either need to put stuff in here or someone took them out. Not sure. Okay, so you can see here CD in. So this is interesting. The CD input connector here. See how that's got, there's a little 4-pin connector, and then there's the sound output here. This goes from the sound output into, I think, the Apple speaker. There's another expansion here. What is that for? XD expansion? Have no idea what that's for. Check out the massive heatsink on the processor. So I believe this is a Pentium 100, if I'm not mistaken, based on the description. And then we've got all the crazy connectors in the end here that talk to that Y cable that we opened up before. So there you have it. That's our little unboxing treat that we did. So we've got I'll just bring the other cable up here. We got the Y cable that goes with this DOS compatibility card. I'm wondering if we're going to need to put There's another cable here. I think that might be for a floppy drive. That connector right there. I'm not sure where that's supposed to. I'm gonna have to do some research on this, and then so we might need to add VRAM to this, and we got to find those audio cables so that the CD and the audio sound goes where it's supposed to. There are capacitors on here. I'm not sure if these are going to need replacing. These guys here, they look like they might, if they're leaking, you'll want to replace them. There's a whole bunch of smaller ones over here. Anyways, this card is huge, and I have 2 of them. So we got 2 of these cards, and we got 2 of these cables. So we're going to test these. We'll install Windows and make sure it's working, and then we might put it up for sale later. So going to put this back in the anti-static bag. So thank you to all the people who shipped me these goodies very carefully. Obviously, don't want some of these things getting damaged during transit. That is it's a bad thing. But yeah, I love that this thing has RAM built into it. I'm curious how much RAM that is, but we won't know until we probably boot it up. Might be able to add more RAM to it later if we want to. Okay, so there we have it, DOS compatibility card. Usually these are, any PCI Mac should run these. I'm not entirely sure which Macs can run them, but we will get back to you on that in a little bit. So that's some of our unboxing goodies. So we got a DOS compatibility card and a cable, and we got a Carrera 040 accelerator card for SE30, and it also works in a 2CI. We did get a 2CI in our big haul, and Keith has recapped it, and he's actually working on recapping the power supply. So we might do a test of the accelerator cards to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We also got a Daystar Turbo 601 card with our big haul, but there was no heatsink on the processor. It's a 601, I think, clocked at 66 megahertz. Apparently you can overclock it to 90 if you pull some resistor tomfoolery. And I think someone might have been doing that, because why would you take the heatsink off of a card if it was working properly? I don't know the answer to that, but anyways, thought we would do a little slideshow of some of the other projects that we're working on. So I'm just going to do a split screen here with some of the things that I'd like to share with you. Tell you some stories about what we got and why we got it. So let's take a look at this. All right, so in my travels over the last month, I've been to Edmonton. I went to the ERA and picked up a very cool thing. So you'll see this picture here. This is actually a Sony broadcast monitor, and we'll take a closer look at the insides in a second. I took it apart because when you try turning it on, there's just a simple relay click. It just goes tick and nothing happens. So when that happens, usually what that means is there's no high voltage. Otherwise you hear that really high pitched frequency that something's ramping up the sound of the flyback transformer and the extreme high voltage that's involved with all of these monitors. So in here you can see right there, those pins, that is the flyback transformer pins. And if you look underneath, you can see there are BNC connectors for red, green, and blue. This is a professional broadcast monitor. This is what they had in TV stations. You'll see there too that there's serial controls for doing all sorts of things like turning on the tally light. There's sync ports. If you want to do a video sync from an external source, you can do that. So that's pretty cool. This monitor has 800 lines of resolution. For a color CRT, that's incredible. I also have a monochrome CRT, it's Sony 137, and it has 1,000 lines of resolution. But 800 lines in color is pretty nuts. A friend of mine in Airdrie has one of these, and his works. This one does not, but I'm going to get my CRT guy to take a look at this, and hopefully he'll resurrect it, because this is a highly, highly sought after CRT. And can't wait to see this thing working. If you're into vintage gaming, this is just like, this is one of the things that you want. So you can see here, PVM 14L5, and the date code is January 2004. So this little monitor is literally 21 years old, like right now. So I'm going to get back to you on the repair. I'm going to take it to him. Hopefully he'll get it running, and when he does, we'll play some Super Nintendo and some Dreamcast on it, and it's going to be super fun to take a look at. So I'm very happy I got this. I didn't have to pay too much for it. I'm hoping that there's not too much wrong with it. We'll see. If we're lucky, we'll be able to have a very, very high-end color monitor that we can really enjoy and appreciate some of these old vintage games. All right. In Edmonton last weekend, I picked up a bunch of vintage software from a gentleman that had collected some things from some storage areas. So you can see here, this is the actual documentation for Castle Wolfenstein. I love this because look at this. It says Apple II or Apple II Plus requires 48K, DOS 3.2 or 3.3. So for those of you who are old enough to remember, DOS 3.3 was, I think, when they switched from 13 sector disks to 16 sector disks. As a matter of fact, the Disk 2 controller cards, when they updated the ROMs on them, they would put a little 16 sticker so you knew that you could run the newer disks. Nonetheless, this is the actual documentation that you would have got with Castle Wolfenstein when you bought the game back in 1981. Look at this. 1981. That's just madness. So if you've ever played Doom or Quake or anything like that, that all sort of stemmed from Castle Wolfenstein. And Castle Wolfenstein is actually running right behind me. Let me just pan back out to the main angle here. So you can see over just above Mario's head, that's Castle Wolfenstein running right there. I've turned the sound down, otherwise we would get very irritated with all the stuff that's going on. So Castle Wolfenstein is a 2D version of a maze game where you're shooting different Nazis and looking for bullets and looking for treasure and money and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Castle Wolfenstein, Wolfenstein 3D, and Doom all stemmed from this game. So I thought you'd find that very interesting. I just think it's neat that I have the actual floppy with a typewritten label on it from 1981. How cool is that? So we'll just go back to our split screen here and I will continue with the slideshow. So Castle Wolfenstein was one of the things that I was happy to find. This is really cool. We got, sorry, the picture is kind of dark. We actually got Championship Load Runner. So not just regular Load Runner, but Championship Load Runner. Sorry about that. I lost my picture there. So Championship Load Runner was a sequel to Load Runner, and obviously it's more challenging, it's harder, the mazes are more interesting. If any of you grew up in the 80s, you probably played Load Runner on some kind of platform. I played it on the Apple II and really, really liked it. I also played it on the Mac, but I actually prefer the Apple II version. Maybe it's just out of sentimental value, not sure. We'll do some gameplay on this stuff later, but I just wanted to show you what I found, and we'll test these discs to see if they actually work, which is fun. We can test them on our 2C behind me, or we might test them on a 2E. We're going to do some diagnostic videos as well, where we take a look at some of our machines, make sure all the ROM and RAM is healthy. Check this out. Microsoft made games for the Apple. Did you know that? This is pretty cool. We have Olympic Decathlon. That is wild. And again, 1981. This is an original floppy disk that's like, 24 years old. Haven't played this game, but I think I might remember how it looks. But anyway, that was pretty neat to find that. This is a game by Sierra Online, and it's called Ulysses and the Golden Fleece. It's one of those high-resolution adventure games. Back in the day, there was a lot of these. You might remember some Dungeons and Dragons culture back in the 80s. There was a lot of computer games that were trying to emulate the board game. This is one of them. 48K disc, Apple II or II Plus, requires DOS 3.3, and it was $34.95. So that's pretty neat. And again, we've got the original, we have the original floppy here, and it's two-sided. High-res adventure number 4. So I'm guessing there's a whole bunch of more adventures with different numbers on them. I'm not familiar with that series, but nonetheless, 1981, front and back. I played Wizardry myself, which was very cool. This is really neat. For any of you who remember, obviously Electronic Arts is still around, but Electronic Arts had the greatest artwork on their software back in the day. So this is like, when you bought an Electronic Arts game, it was like you're buying an album. The artwork was just as important as the game itself. And so back in the day, Electronic Arts teamed up with Julius Erving, or Dr. J, and Larry Bird, and they came up with a one-on-one basketball game. If you haven't seen it, I've done a video on it before, but we'll do a playthrough on it later. And a neat thing about this is you can actually, I can't remember where the company is, I'll have to figure out the link and maybe put it in the notes. Someone built a joystick adapter that plugs into the back of your Apple II, and it lets you connect 2 wireless Xbox controllers, because there's certain Apple II games that will receive multiple joystick inputs. Super Mario Brothers is one of them, and one-on-one is another. So you can actually hook up 2 wireless joysticks and play head-to-head with your friends on an old Apple from like 1979 or whatever. So one-on-one is a great game, very fun. One of the first kind of real sports games where you kind of felt like, oh, this is kind of cool. So that was neat. There's no disc in here, but we can make our own. We might have gotten one someplace else. I've just been busy collecting, and this was just worth having. When I called the guy about getting the software, he said, do you collect Mac stuff too? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he says, well, I've got this Power Mac 6100, and I've got a Color Classic that I also don't need. And so I was able to pick those up from him as well, which is really cool. What was neat about the Color Classic was he had the original floppy disks for System 7 point whatever that came with the Classic. So that's neat. And then this is also cool. He actually had the original disc for a Macintosh Plus, which I have several, and I have one with a box. So it's kind of cool to have like the original keyboard, the original mouse, the original discs that came with it, and the styrofoam packaging. So you have like, this would be a complete Macintosh Plus system if you were to buy one today, if they were available. Next, we got a Macintosh Quick Reference Card. It tells you about all the keyboard shortcuts and what they do and what what they're for. So that's kind of neat. Multi-Finder. That's back in the day there was a Finder that could run like one application, and then Multi-Finder, if you had enough memory, you could run multiple applications at the same time. Apple Writer. This was software that Apple actually made for doing word processing. So it's text editing. You could change fonts, you could edit, you could copy and paste, and that sort of thing. This was just some not diagnostics, but documentation, sorry. So some of the stuff I got, there wasn't actual discs with it, but it's worth having anyway. So this is Odyssey, the Complete App Venture, which is interesting. Sabotage by Sierra Online Systems. And again, what's fun about this is the disk 32K up in the corner there. Yeah, Apple II or II Plus, machine language, DOS 3.2 or 3.3, $24.95, to give you an idea of how much these games were back in the day. And Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, this was the sequel to Castle Wolfenstein. I haven't played through all these games, but nonetheless, that's pretty neat that we actually have the color documentation. You'll notice this is a little more interesting than the black and white typewritten instructions that we got with the other Castle Wolfenstein disc. We got a manual called the Apple Collection. It's got different programming tips in it. It talks about basic, a little bit about the hardware of the Apple II and what you can do with it with the 6502 processor. This is kind of cool. Apple made a game called Apple Adventure, and you'll see there's that sticker on there that says 16. That means that the disc is a 16-sector disc. And what's neat about this is it also says Apple 1980 on it. You can see that the sticker is quite worn out. It's still sticking, which is cool. And I like the fact that the software actually has the Apple on the disc 2 sleeve. That's very, very cool. What else did we come across? Another Apple game, Apple Stellar Invaders. It was kind of an offshoot of Space Invaders. I actually have a real Space Invaders machine, so it was interesting to see how they made this a little bit of a variant. And again, we've got the original disc with the 16 sector indicator on it, as well as the date 1980, which is typical because Space Invaders, the arcade game, came out in 1978. So that's fun. We've got the Disc 2 sleeve with the Apple Rainbow logo on it. What else did we get here? This is another, I like this one because it has the Broderbund logo on it, but you can see that it's the old 3 crown logo. This is very old. So Apple Panic 48K Apple II integer /plus. You'll see there that Broderbund software was in Eugene, Oregon. I don't know if they moved to California after that. I'd have to double check. I'm not sure if I know what I'm talking about there. I thought Broderbund was in California, but maybe they moved. And we got some cool Apple Rainbow stickers. These are always fun to find. You'll see there's one on my, I've got one there that on top of my Apple IIe. That's the Color Classic that we picked up. The guy thought something was wrong with it, but a lot of people don't realize that the Color Classic uses what's called soft power. And so you can't boot up a Color Classic just by flicking the power on the back. You actually have to push the power button on the keyboard and then it comes to life. Well, lucky for me, it's actually working. So that's cool. What we normally do with these Color Classics is we will take them, and what you can do is you will take one of these boards, and this is a 575 board, and what this does is it makes the Color Classic into what's called a Mystic. And you'll see here there's an that's an 040 processor here, and it goes way faster than the 16 megahertz 030 that's in the Color Classic. It's pretty anemic. So I have a Color Classic here behind me, but I've also got another one upstairs. I have 3 Color Classics, and I want to make them all into Mystics, which means I have to find another 575 board. I believe Keith has an extra one, but it's not totally fixed yet, so hopefully we can get that up and running. So Color Classic was actually working, which is fantastic. And he also had a PowerMac 6100, and he also had the AV monitor that goes with the 6100. It's got a really thick, funky plug on it, and it does sound input, sound output, video output, ADB, and serial extensions. So you could plug this into the back of your 6100, or I think 7100, 8100, and you could hook up different devices to the monitor directly, like it was a hub. So that's kind of cool. This is the Color Classic logic board that was in the Color Classic. And if you take a closer look at, you can see some of the chips have like some corrosion on them. Usually what happens is the capacitors leak, and then they start corroding the legs on some of these chips, and then things start to fail. And you also want to make sure there's no battery in here, because if there's a battery, when the battery explodes, that's what causes major problems, because the batteries can eat traces and vias, and it's just no good. So if you have an old logic board from a vintage Mac and you want to preserve it, it's best to recap it as soon as possible. And we'll probably get, I've already got like 2 recapped Color Classic logic boards, but it doesn't hurt to do another one. They're not that hard. There's only a few caps on this board. So. And then this was something we picked up from the big haul that I'm working on a video for. I was looking for this because we were trying to test all the different Apple II systems that we had. We got everything from an Apple I kit, which I'm going to be putting together. You have to solder sockets, and it's got transformers and capacitors and resistors, and it has a keyboard. It's a full kit. You just have to supply your own monitor. But when we were testing all these different Apples, we don't really know what's wrong with them. So this disc, when you put this disc in, it's called Apple II and Disc 2 Diagnostics. So it'll tell you if your ROMs are healthy, it'll tell you if your RAM is healthy, and it'll tell you if your discs are healthy. So it'll actually measure the speed of the motor in your Disc 2 system. It'll help you calibrate them, and it just tells you what's healthy and what's not. So when we're putting these back together, we want to refurbish them, we want to clean them, we want to sell them. This disc will help us identify what problems does this machine have and how do we fix them. So that's about it for today's program. There's a lot of stuff that we went over, but wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. Hope that you're having a great new year. It's currently January the 8th, I think, or or January 7th. What's the date today? It is, it's the 8th, yeah. So January 8th, I'm going to sign off, but thank you for joining me with Computer Compulsive. This has been Craig's Basement Edition, a little preview of some of the stuff we're doing in 2025. Stay tuned for a massive haul video, which is going to talk about all the different systems that Keith and I picked up. We're very excited about all of the machines that we have, and we have enough machines to make content for the next 2 years. So we're going to be filming and editing and refurbishing and cleaning and telling a bunch of great stories about all the stuff that we're up to. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy the program, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. This is Craig signing off.